Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Mark Marex, Senior Specialist with Index Research and Development at Nasdaq Investment Intelligence. Today, we're covering NQHTEC, the Nasdaq Lux Health Tech Index, which just launched on Monday, July 19th. Mark, it's great to see you. Tell us about the new index and the top performing constituents.
Thank you, Jill. Great to be here and really excited to talk about this new index, which we developed in partnership with Lux Capital. It's a VC, mostly a venture capital firm that has a ton of great knowledge about what's going on in the healthcare space as it relates to innovation and those kind of newer firms that are more focused on using technology to really advance areas of healthcare, whether it's digital health, whether it's biotech, whether it's things in the genomics sector. So on this first slide, I just wanted to give folks a view of, in terms of the index weightings, it's very straightforward. This is an equally weighted index. So every quarter we're going to rebalance it to be equal weightings. Right now it's got 59 constituents in it. So you can see in terms of the top 10 companies, in terms of year-to-date 2021 performance, they've all got that equalized 1.7% index weight to them. Illumina is kind of the only household name, I would say, that's in the biotech space that appears on this list in terms of top performers year to date. You can see some of the others were actually negative in terms of performance in 2020 for the full year. Fulgent Genetics was really the only one here that was a top performer in 2020. That name was up over 300%. And you can see on average, these top 10 are up about 47% year to date. Quite a bit of mean reversion going on in the biotech and in the broader healthcare space this year versus last year. Of course, last year, it was such a thematic space and a lot of names did really, really well. Whether you're talking biotech, digital health, or some of those other kind of names within healthcare.
Mark, what sectors make up this index?
Yeah, so it's really all healthcare. There's a couple names that technically fall into technology as a sector and as an industry. So what I've shown here on the left is actually the subsector breakdown. So you can see there's a couple names that fall within software in the dark purple all the way at the bottom of that list. But really most of the index weight is going to be your medical equipment and medical supplies. That's about 50% of the index weight. Then you've also got healthcare services, healthcare management services, and medical services making up a pretty good chunk. And then you got biotech at almost a 20% weighting. Not a surprise to see a significant allocation to biotech as a subsector here. And then on the right, what I'm showing you is kind of the size breakdown. What's the typical size of constituents in this index? You'll see there's very, very few. There's really only one name that's in that kind of mega cap space, over 100 billion in market cap. There's one name in the 50 to 100 billion range. Most of them are falling in that kind of sub 5 billion or maybe the 5 to 10 billion, right? So it's mostly a small to mid cap index of names that we've got here.
And Mark, how has it performed relative to other benchmarks?
Well, so this is a tricky question, right? Because we just launched the index yesterday. It just went live and we've got, a back test or back cast, what you would call is simulated performance, taking today's portfolio and seeing what out of today's portfolio would have existed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. We did that back to 2015 in September. And we see, really, really extraordinary outperformance versus market benchmarks for this type of strategy. Again, you can see there the huge zoom up in 2020. We're seeing a bit of mean reversion to the downside on that. This index is down about 4% year to date based on that simulation. But still, look at that cumulative price return of almost 550%. That's more than doubling what you saw with the Nasdaq 100. That is more than quadrupling what you saw with the S&P 500. And I'm not even going to get into the multiples versus plain old healthcare benchmarks. That's IHC, the Nasdaq Global Healthcare Index, or even biotech, the Nasdaq Biotech Index, up a relatively paltry amount compared to this one.
And Mark, to wrap up here, how does it perform relative to other competitors?
So this is still a pretty new space. And again, part of why we were so excited to work with Lux Capital on developing this. And it was really their expertise that we leveraged to kind of map out, what the universe of possible names in this space is, and then sort of what are the best names, the ones that are most relevant to the theme that we're trying to capture here. At the end of the day, it's a thematic index. There's really only a couple other products out there. There's one from iShares called HEAL. It's an ETF based in Europe. That's the yellow line, the IXBR HLTU index. That's a mouthful. You can see that performance has been very similar to the S&P 500 over that same time period. And then HTech, which is the Robo Global Health Tech Index, that one doing much better, although still, not matching what we've kind of come up with here with NQH Tech. So very, very excited again about the launch and to see how this index performs, for the rest of the year and going forward. It should be a good one to keep track of.
All right, Mark, we certainly will. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.